evening. We are back to the Spirit's book. We are on the item Spirit's occupations and missions. We did some questions last week. Just a recap. According to Spiritism, a mission is something that is always positive. You always do it to help others, to help humankind, from one person to hundreds, thousands, millions of people. So there is the definition of mission is not something, according to Spiritism, it's not something that you are doing for your own benefit only and not for the benefit of others. Occupations are things that we do in our life that can be for ourselves only, or can be for others. A very good definition that I read today, looking definitions of mission outside of Spiritism, and I read that a job is something that you do because you want to get paid. A mission is a job that you take to help others. I thought this was interesting because it gives a broader definition and an interesting definition of mission outside Spiritism. Okay, so we were discussing those that are idle. We talked a little bit last week, but this first question talks about it. Philip, you're going to read for us?
Certainly. Did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, 574. What is the mission of those who are deliberately idle on earth? There are human beings who live only for themselves and do not make themselves useful in any manner whatsoever. They should be pitied because they will have to make amends for their voluntary uselessness through severe suffering. Their atonement often begins even in their present life, though their weariness and disgust of life. Why did they choose a life that could not be of any use to them, since they had the freedom of choice? Just like human beings, some spirits are lazy and avoid a life of labor. God leaves them to their devices because they eventually learn the consequences of their uselessness, and then eagerly ask to be allowed to make up for lost time. They may even have chosen a more useful life, but abandoned the trial and allowed themselves to be misled by spirits who encourage them to remain inactive.
Okay. So again, we have to think when we are here. Just we have to look around, right? We have some people that do not want to do anything. If they can live off the government, they can live off others, they will try to do that. So these spirits that are deliberately idle on earth, they are just missing an opportunity. We are eternal spirits. We will have endless opportunities to come back. But the more we drag our feet, the more difficult it becomes the next challenge. Because if we are being lazy because others are taking care of us and we don't want to make any effort, the next time we will come to a place where we won't have the opportunity, or that we won't have the assistance of others, or the assistance of others will be much more difficult to get. So this is why, we are here to progress morally and intellectually. We have to make at least a minimal effort to progress, to learn something, to evolve. But we have our free will, so we may choose not to do anything. It's our choice. we will have to face the consequences. And the Spirit says here that our atonement may begin even in the present life. So, you know, you spend a whole life not doing anything, living off others, and then reaches a point of your life that others move away from you, that you have no help, no assistance, because people get tired of you coasting on their backs, right? So, and this can cause some suffering in the present life. When you have you get sick, you have a disease, there is no one there to help you, this thing. So that's how in the present life it can start. But if it doesn't, we go back to the spiritual world. We find ourselves in a difficult situation in the spiritual world, right? Because we didn't make any effort, we are easy prey of the spirits that want to take advantage of us in the spiritual world. So they will probably get a hold of us when we are back in the spiritual world, take us to places in the lower zones that will cause us to suffer and struggle. And we will understand eventually that it's not taking us anywhere. So we choose, ask for another opportunity. And again, we have free will. So our progress is very slow. We can come here and repeat the same mistakes on another life. That's not uncommon. We come here, we don't learn, and we hear this on, you know, the big issues that we have. People that have addictions fall back to the addictions. Suicides on previous lives, commit suicide again, because we are still yet struggling to learn how to evolve morally and intellectually. So that makes us suffer. But eventually it comes a point that we say to ourselves, enough, I want to change, I need to change, I'm going to make an effort. And when we decide to make an effort, again, the protecting spirits are always available to us, always there to help and assist us. So they're just waiting for us to make the choice, because they are not going to impose anything on us. They will assist us if we are doing our part. So the laziness eventually will have to end, but it may take some time. And here we are not even talking about mission. We're talking about occupations, right? At least do a job to survive. There are people that not even that will do that.
I think for completeness, I understand of those answers, it would be wise to read again 573, especially when you use the words mission and occupation. If you could just read those questions, that 573 again, because then it will everything make completely sense.
Philip, you heard, right, Philip?
I heard, but not completely.
To read against 573, because it will help us understand better.
Oh, okay. What is the mission of incarnate spirits? Educating other incarnates, helping their advancement, and improving their institutions through direct material means. Missions vary in scope and importance, and the individual who works as a farmer accomplishes a mission just as a politician or a teacher does. Everything in nature is connected, and all spirits, while purifying themselves through incarnation, contribute to the accomplishment of God's plans. Each of you has a mission because each of you can be useful in one way or another.
So I think it does, because that follows through a sequence. It's very logical. So to understand 574, you have to understand 573, right? And it's educating other incarnates, helping their advancement, and improving the institutions through direct means, direct material means. So you should start by others. It doesn't say of yourself. You can educate yourself. You can educate others. You can hear the big investment of others and everyone else. Because what's good is serving others, right? and through direct material means. Otherwise, it could be done by this kind of spirits. We are here now, we walk in material world, should serve with material means as well. And then it says that everything in it is connected, and all the spirits, while purifying themselves through incarnation, contribute to the accomplishment of God's plan. So all means all. So it is impossible that anyone come to incarnation with a mission or with a plan to do nothing, to be idle. Anyone who is here idle is going against the divine laws, which is one of the laws that we study in this book, the law of labor. And by definition of labor according to Spirit's book, it's all useful activity.
You guys heard?
Yes.
Okay, good. Right. Any other questions, comments? Okay.
575. Common occupations seem to be duties rather than missions. A mission, as we define it, is characterized by a less exclusive and personal importance. How can we discover if a person really has a mission on earth? By the great things they accomplish and the progress they bring to their fellow human beings.
You know the tree, you recognize the tree by its fruits, right? So you recognize the work of a missionary by the fruits of his or her work. Again, a true missionary will never recognize that they are a missionary. The characteristic of a true missionary is humbleness and not recognizing it's a missionary. Mother Teresa never said she was a missionary. Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Chico Xavier, they never said they were missionaries. On the contrary, they always said that they were of little importance. They were small in relation to God or other grandiose things. So this is the true missionary. If someone tells you that I'm here on a mission, the red flag. Just you have to be very careful, because if someone thinks that they are on a mission, the first thing that they have is pride, and pride prevents the true missionary from benefiting others because they are thinking of themselves first. Again, it's possible that even prideful and selfish people who do work to benefit others, right? We see a lot of people that do work that end up benefiting others, and they will reap the benefits of the work they did to help others. But they are doing something of a mission, but we cannot call them true missionaries, because true missionaries are the ones that are really making a difference. But again, a mission can be something very, very small, and we are going to read about it very shortly. Parenthood is a mission. So it's a mission that we receive. We can do it well or do it not so well, but they classify here as a mission, as we're going to see in a couple of questions. Okay.
576.
Yep.
Are individuals who have an important mission predestined to this mission before their birth, and are they aware of it? In some cases, yes, but they are more often unaware of it. They are only vaguely conscious of arriving on earth, and their mission is revealed to them gradually after birth, depending on the circumstances. God leads them to the road that they should follow in order to be capable of carrying out God's plans.
Let's talk about Kardec, right? The missionary that brought us spiritism. did Kardec knew before incarnating that he was going to he had the responsibility of bringing spiritism? Yes, he did. He was he came prepared for it, and in the preparation for it was the work that he did as an educator, the studies that he did with Pestalozzi when he was very young, and developing all the books and the educational work that he did in France. And when he came into contact with the turning tables and became first not interested and then curious because a very serious friend of him that he trusted asked him to go with him to one of the sessions. So that's why he decided to go. And by arriving there and starting to rationalize, he was a very reasonable man, right? He decided to pursue and ended up codifying Spiritism. In the beginning, the questions that he asked and the curiosity that he had was for himself. He wasn't planning on codifying Spiritism. He was just curious to understand better what he was seeing, making sense of the things he was seeing. So that's when he started asking the questions and getting the answers. But the number of questions and answers that he received made him reach the conclusion that he had to start compiling it and putting together a doctrine, so to say, right? And that's when he started the Spirit's book. So this is a true missionary. Did Kardec ever say that he was a missionary? You don't see that in any work of Kardec, in any work. He knew that he had to do a job here. He knew that he had to bring this knowledge to humankind because he thought that he would help humankind. So this is the true work of a missionary. Someone that knew before birth that he was coming to do that. Now, there are those that come not aware of it. Again, if you need to understand the whole concept of reincarnation and participate in your reincarnation planning for you to plan a mission here, right? For you to choose something that will make a difference. If you are, let's say, you are a religious person that does not believe in reincarnation, like in the Catholic Church, they go back to the spiritual world and you continue not believing. You are there working, but maybe waiting for heaven or hell, or not knowing exactly what's going on. And then you are brought to a new reincarnation without being fully aware of the process. You can come on a mission, but not being aware before you were born. And then you come here and you develop. So when we talk about Mother Teresa, right, that chose to follow the religious path, did she know beforehand that she was going to do what she did? We don't know. I think knowing the work she did, that is more likely than not. But maybe she didn't. Maybe she arrived here and decided to follow the path. Martin Luther King, did he come here planning to fight for the rights of the black people, to fight for equality? Possible. We would think that he came with some idea that he wanted to do that. But again, you can come and change your mind, right? We discussed this last week. The spirits, the superior spirits, always have a plan B for everything, that it's for the benefit of humankind, for us to progress. So they trusted Kardec to do the work, but if he decided not to do it, he could have decided to continue working as an educator. He was doing a pretty decent work there. So there was going to be someone else that was going to be responsible to bring Spiritism. It is said it's Leon Denis. So it is, again, we can come on a mission, knowing or not knowing, but always remember that free will make us choose if we are going to follow the path or not. No one is forced to do anything. It's always of our free will. Okay. Okay.
577.
Yeah.
When a person does something useful, is it a predestined mission or can it be an unanticipated one? Not all productive activities engaged in by human beings are the result of a predestined mission. Individuals are often the instruments of spirits who use them to obtain something they consider useful. For example, a spirit might seek out a writer to publish a book that it considers useful and would write itself if incarnated. The spirit finds the writer who could best understand and develop its idea, suggests the plan for the book, and direct its completion. In such a case, the writer did not come into the world with the mission of doing this work. It is the same with regard to various works of art or scientific discoveries. While asleep, the incarnate spirit directly communicates with the errant spirit, and they collaborate in the endeavor.
So something here very important. When the spirits need to bring us something, to bring humanity some useful thing for humanity to progress, they will choose the best available instrument there. So when we talk about, let's talk about scientific discovery, right? It's time for a very important scientific breakthrough, and the spirits want to help. There's no one that came, let's say, with a predestined mission to make that discovery, but it is time. So the spirits will find the scientist that is better equipped and more prepared to make that discovery. And then they will use him or her, maybe communicating through during their sleep, maybe inspiring them, right, when they are working on something. But again, you have to be prepared. You have to be doing the work. The spirits are never going to choose a musician to do a scientific discovery or a scientist to compose a song, because it's not going to get anywhere, right? So they will make use of the best available resources to achieve the results, and the person that will be the instrument may be someone that wasn't predestined to do anything like that, but because of their own effort and merit, they became the best instrument available for the spirits, and they will get the reward for that, in their progress. They will be rewarded for the work that they did, the spiritual reward, let's say. Because even if you were not planning to do that, but because of you put the effort to get to a point, and then from there the spirits took you a step further, you made the effort to get to that point, right? So that's how it works when someone is not predestined or it's not planned or something like that. Again, free will is the most important thing. We make our choices, we make our path, and then the spirits will be there to help and assist us. Okay?
.578. Can a spirit fail in its mission based on its own fault? Yes, if it is not a superior spirit. What are the consequences of such a failure? It must start its task over again as atonement. It also has to suffer the consequences of the harm caused by its failure.
Okay, so first here, a superior spirit, a perfect spirit, never fails in its mission because it's a perfect spirit. If it's perfect, it's not going to make anything wrong. So there's no plan B for the work of a perfect spirit. I said this last week, right? Jesus, the governor of the planet, took care of planet Earth. There was not a plan B for planet Earth because Jesus, as a perfect spirit, was going to succeed in the work. Now, all of those below can fail in the mission, can not fulfill the mission. And going back to the book Missionaries of the Light, when they talk about the completers, right, we come here with the objective of doing something with our lives, and the average, the majority of us, fulfill 40 to 60% of our plan. There are very few that do 100%, that they are called the completers by André Luiz and those in the Reincarnation Center. So it is expected that we may come and not be able to complete the mission we were supposed to. The consequences of not completing will be according to what we did. Let's let's talk about Kardec. If Kardec decided not to go ahead with Spiritism and continue to his work as an educator, he was doing a good work. If he continued doing that work and contributed a lot to the education of children of the French people, what would be the consequences of the failure? Would not be huge consequences because he was doing a good work. He was just not doing what he was supposed to be doing. But it will not be such a big consequence. He would probably have to catch up to Spiritism later through other incarnations to catch up with the work that he didn't do before, but not serious consequences. Now, you come here with a mission, of taking care of directing a school. Let's say you'll be a principal of a school, of taking care of the education of a school, and then you get sidetracked, distracted, and you end up causing disturbances and harm to the work that you were supposed to do. Then it creates serious consequences, right? You can have consequences only for yourself because of your lack of work that created consequences only for you. But if these consequences cause harm to others, then it becomes even more difficult, and the atonement will be much more serious than if you cause harm only to yourself. It's your own atonement, but it starts involving other people. It becomes a much more serious issue and problem. Okay.
579.
Yeah.
Since each spirit receives its mission from God, how can God have allowed an important mission to a spirit capable of failure? Does God not know whether a general will be victorious or defeated? Rest assured that God foresees all things, and that the carrying out of God's plans is never confided to those who will leave their work half completed, especially when they are important. You have trouble accepting the concept of God's knowledge of the future because you cannot understand it.
Okay, so first we have to understand the concept here of God, right? God created a natural and perfect laws. So the natural laws are perfect. The progress of ourselves as individual spirits from the beginning, since we are primitive beings until perfection, is part of the natural law. It's part of the natural laws of God. So when God created the natural laws, of course, with the understanding that we have of God, which is very limited and very incomplete, we must deduct that all it is in God's plan. If when a spirit receives a mission and it doesn't receive directly from God, it receives from the intermediaries that goes from the superior spirits to the lower spirits. If the missions were only given to perfect spirit, there'll be no missions here because we don't have any perfect spirits on earth, right? So who will be the missionaries here? There are no missionaries, right? So the mission comes with the responsibility of the missionary to complete, but with the possibility and understanding that the missionary may fail, may not complete the mission, do an incomplete mission, may not do anything at all, because it's all part of the natural law of progress, right? So the spirits, again, as I mentioned before, the spirits will always have alternative plans for the failures that we are all capable of, and we actually fail a lot in our progress. So as they say here, God foresees all things. God knows everything, right? So God's knowledge of everything creates also this path for the spirits to come on a mission and to be able to complete or not complete the mission. But again, when we try to understand God, it's very difficult because we have an incomplete and limited understanding of God and the natural law, as we saw in the beginning of the Spirit's book, right? The first questions when they talk about God. So it's important for us to leave it open, this understanding of God, because we need to accumulate more knowledge and more understanding of the natural law and God's law to be able to accept it and to be able to be more comfortable with it. Okay? Okay?
580. When a spirit incarnates to complete a mission, does it feel the same anxiety as a spirit about to endure a trial? No, because it has experience.
Okay, so first, what is a trial? A trial, it's the difference between trials and atonements, right? Atonement is a consequence of something we did in the past that we have to come and go through it again as a learning experience to repair the mistakes we made in the past. A trial is an opportunity for us to learn something that we don't know yet, but it's not a consequence of mistakes of our past. It's just a new thing that we have to learn on our spiritual progress. Okay? So when we come to an incarnation, we live in a world of trials and atonements, or trials and expiations. Why? Because we incarnate here with trials and with atonements. And as we mentioned before, we are going to fail. We are going to not to succeed in some trials, and we are going to make some amends, but not all of them. Again, when you have a trial and you fail in learning, you are not creating an atonement for you when you're making a mistake for the first time because you didn't know. You create an atonement when you know something and you make a mistake knowing that you shouldn't be doing that. That's when you create consequences for you. That's when you create atonement. Because otherwise, when we are primitive men and we kill the neighbor because we want to fight, we're fighting for the food. We don't know better. There is no consequence, serious consequence for that because we are primitive. We work on instinct only, basically, right? Now, once we learn that killing our neighbor is against the natural law, then when you accuse someone, you are creating a consequence, an atonement, an expiation, right? So that's the difference between trial and expiation. The question is, when the spirit incarnates to complete a mission, it feels the same anxiety. So when we are planning our reincarnation and we have trials, we can become a little bit anxious because it's something we don't know, we will have to deal with, so creates some anxiety in us. A missionary, a spirit that is coming on a mission, they are coming to do something they know how to do. Otherwise, they wouldn't come to do it. If they know how to do it, they will be less anxious than someone that is facing a challenge they don't know how to deal with. Doesn't guarantee success or failure on any of those sides. It's just the difference on what the Kardec asks the spirit. When he incarnates to complete a mission, if he feels the same anxiety as a spirit about to endure a trial. Because a trial is something unknown to us, so it gives us more anxiety. Again, there are spirits that relish a challenge. Like we have people here that whenever they have to face a challenge, they feel more excited and more inclined to face it. And other people retract from it. Other people try to move away from challenges because they are more not comfortable with challenges. The spirits, is just us on the other side coming back, so it's the same thing. Those that are more comfortable in facing challenges will feel less anxious than those that feel more uncomfortable facing challenges. Okay.
581. It is obvious that those who enlighten the human race by their genius have a mission, but there are many who make mistakes, and while they may discover important truths, they spread serious errors. How should we view their missions? As having been falsified by themselves. They are not fit for the task they have undertaken. In judging them, however, you must take into account the circumstances in which they were placed. People of genius have had to impart knowledge according to the structures of their time. And while teachings may later appear to be erroneous or foolish, they may have been suitable for the time when they were discovered.
This is important for us to understand that these geniuses or these missionaries that bring something to us, they are limited by the knowledge and understanding of their times, right? So when we talk about Isaac Newton, all the discoveries and advancements that he made in science, they were limited by the time that he lived. And of course, they were further developed by Einstein and by other scientists. Did he make mistakes? Of course, we all make mistakes. We are imperfect spirits. So even the geniuses, they make mistakes. But we have to take in account the circumstances. We have to take into account the limitations of the time. Galileo Galilei that had to retract what he said because otherwise he would be burned at stake. So what he said and believed stayed with him, and he left what he wrote and he discovered. But he, to live at that time, he had to retract what that the earth was not the center of the universe, right? Because at that time, if you went against the church and said that the earth goes around the sun and not the other way around, you would be condemned and burned. So he had to retract. When we talk about the religious leaders throughout the world, and we're not going to go into specifics here, but all the religions have the truths, the real truths behind them. But the interpretations of the truth made by those in charge of the religions carry a lot of mistakes. Some intentional, mostly unintentional. Those that try to dominate others, to impose their beliefs and their truths, may do it intentionally, carry the mistakes, threaten others with punishments because they want them to be fearful and follow the religion. But a lot of the truths that are not real truths that they bring is because of lack of knowledge, of misinterpretations of the spiritual messages that they receive. So we have to be careful, because some of these geniuses or these missionaries, they may bring some notions that are not really true. It's upon us, each one of us, to do our part, to study, to dedicate ourselves, to learn, to investigate, so we can reach our own conclusions. That our evolutionary path that we need to do. Okay. And we arrive at parenthood.
582. Can parenthood be considered a mission? There is no question that it is a mission. It is a serious duty, the responsibilities of which will exercise a much more significant impact on people's future than a person might think. God has placed children under the guidance of its parents so that they can direct the child to goodness and integrity. God has even facilitated their tasks by giving the child a weak and gentle physical makeup, completely open to new impressions. However, there are many parents who put more effort into pruning trees in their gardens and making them bear a large crop of fruit than the time they devote to molding the character of their children. If the child fails and it is the fault of the parents, they will suffer the atonement of their failure, and the suffering of the child in a future life will be assigned to them because they have not done their part in helping the child advance on the road to happiness.
Okay, so parenthood is definitely a mission, and those that are parents here know the challenges of raising children, right? We need to understand, again, that we are imperfect spirits. We are going to make mistakes. But what we have to do here is to give the best of ourselves to educate our children. That's the mission. That's the task that we have. Understanding that we are going to make mistakes, and understanding that we are educating individual spirits that are bringing a baggage from their previous existences that will manifest sooner or later, and that may cause some attrition, some problems, some issues. Normally it does, right? But the job of the parents is to deliver the package in a better condition than they received the package originally. That's the mission. Our children, as someone said to me some time ago, our children are not what we want them to be. They are what they are. They are spirits, individual spirits, independent spirits that bring a baggage, that are going to go through their own challenges and difficulties. Our mission is to try to make them better than they are. Trying to, when we can, when they are young, to fight their imperfections, to find their shortcomings, to educate them, to prepare them to for the world and for their own evolution. But we can only do according to our own limitations. We cannot give more than what we have. So we would like to be perfect parents, yes. Can we be perfect parents? No, because we are imperfect spirits. So our task is to do the best that we can according to our possibilities, and understanding that they are also spirits in evolution that will have their own, make their own choices as they grow even more and then we become less and less important in their development. Okay.
583.
No comments here. Good.
583. If children go wrong, despite their parents' care, are the parents responsible? No. But the more hateful the disposition of their children, and the more difficult their task, the greater their reward if they succeed in keeping them away from wrongdoing. If children become good adults despite the negligence or bad example of their parents, do the parents obtain any benefit therefrom? God is fair.
So, two questions that want the opposite to each other, right? If we do the best that we can according to our limitation, but we fail to make any changes and fail to make our children better individuals, we are not responsible if we did our best. They have their own free will, they have their own responsibility. So what we have to do is to do our best. Are we going to suffer and struggle seeing their shortcomings and their difficulties? Yes, we are, because it's our children, we love them normally. So we are going to suffer, we are going to feel very, we'll feel the pain of their struggles. But if we did what we could, we shouldn't feel guilty. Easy to say, difficult, because we will always feel guilty when our children make mistakes, right? Because of we always look back and question ourselves, what could we have done differently, right? But we have to understand that we are in perfect spirit. So if we try to do our best within our limitations, that's all we could do, right? So it's important for us to be conscious of the eternal journey of us as spirits, that even if we haven't succeeded, if we planted the seeds, they will grow sometime. Maybe not in this incarnation, maybe in the future, maybe back in the spiritual world, maybe in a new incarnation. But if we did our part and planted the seeds, they will germinate sometime, one day. That's what we can do. The other way around, the second part, if our children become good adults despite our negligence and our bad example, do we get any benefits from it? The answer is very simple. God is fair. What do we conclude here? No, right? If we haven't done anything for their own progress and they did the progress all by themselves, what merit do we have? No merit. So we have no benefit from it. The natural law is perfect. The consequences of our actions has reactions. If we didn't do anything, we cannot expect any reward. God's law is perfect. God is fair. Okay?
The children's goal. Well, we have to be very careful because we don't know where the skills are coming from. What is the level of more intellectual progress that they had when they arrived to those parents? For someone who was completely rebellious, completely against the divine laws, completely evil, you receive that spirit, and it goes, let's say, to makes a scale of rebelliousness, and that spirit is at the very level of 98, and you brought them to 97, you did the job. You did what you could do in that situation. You didn't create a saint. It is still an evil, rebellious spirit, but you did the best that you could to drop one level with that scale, so to say. So we have to be very careful in our judgmental. That's why Christ says do not judge, because we don't know where we come from, and we don't know those offsprings that come to us, where they come from. which they are not there right now. We're not going to create saints of someone who comes from a extremely rebellious kind of character. It's going to take time, it's going to take into the reincarnation of that spirit to be more sociable, so to say. So we have to be very careful when you see spirits going wrong. Don't think about the parents now. No, they did their best. And what they did more than they expected from them. But that's the nature of that spirit right now. On the second example, to me, it's which believe that those spirits came in condition to educate the parents. They are perhaps more evolved spiritually speaking than the parents, because otherwise, how they could have become such good citizens with no good example? Because they were brought that baggage with that.
Okay.
584.
João, I have a question.
Okay. Renato.
So in the society that we live in today, you see some kids, children, they're pretty much out of their homes at their age for care or, pre-K or whatever. And, at early age, they begun their, social life away from the parents, and then they spend, majority of the time out there. When you get to age, you go to a school. You pretty much spend the entire day in school. You get home, you eat, do your tests, and go to sleep. That's it. But the way that the question here was made and the way that the answer was done, it seems that the responsibility of the parents it looks like is a sole responsibility of the parents. But the way the society is right now is kind of I think this easy question would be how much of the responsibility is to fall on the parents' shoulders, since the way we live now, children and kids and teenage, they spend majority of the time outside their homes.
Still, the main responsible for the children are the parents. They make the choices for the children. They choose the school, they choose the pre-K, they have to make the right choices to give their children the best possible path to learn and to progress. And also, when I talk about these days that you don't spend much time with the children, again, in the 200 years ago, if you were rich, you hired people to take care of your children and you barely see your children. If you were poor, children started to work with 6, 7 years old, and there was not much time for education. So times change, but they are all the same. Quality. You are going to spend some time with your children, even if you are putting them in classes or in the pre-Ks or in schools. And the time you spend with them is the time that you have to make this time of quality to learn, because sometimes you spend the whole day with your children and you don't do anything of quality with them. You are just there, playing, and each one in their own places, their rooms. So the quality of the education that you provide when you are with your children and the choices you make for them to have the better possible education, again, according to your possibilities. You don't have money to put them in the best schools, then you put them in the schools that you can afford. That's still the best you can do. And that's what we are discussing here, right? Always trying to do the best that they can do to create conditions for them to progress, but it will depend on them also. So I don't know if you have something to add.
But it's well known now, it takes a tribe, right? You know that it takes a tribe, but the main responsibility, as one said, resides with the parents. The choices, the selections of which members of the tribe should this kid be hanging out belongs to the parents. The modification of character, school instructs, but the true education or the modification of the character, that's a responsibility of the parents. But again, you have to keep in mind that the skills that arise to us, the parents, are only spirits. They already have the bag full. How much can you empty? How much can you change that bag, taking some vices out and replacing some virtues? It's really, you do your best, okay? And that child, and that spirit will eventually take as much as they can from the parents. The responsibility of the parents is to guide that child, specifically that in this what they live today, that there is less communication, less time for parents to spend with the children, to educate them to be properly selective. Now, who are my friends? Who am I going to hang out with? But it does take some time, especially these days.
Okay, Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's just because, I don't know if you follow education in Brazil. It's really, it's confusing kids with, I'm not gonna get into it because, it's too long of a story. But, I just, sometimes I feel like talking to, parents with children that are a little older, they're kind of trying to undo all the damage that it's done somewhere else, but on the other hand, they are trapped because the conditions and everything. Even though you're trying to do your best, you still fall in that trap because there's other adults interfering on the education of your children, and there's not much that you can do about it. That's why I was like thinking about the responsibility of the parents, but it's just do the best you can, but I don't know if it's gonna be good enough.
That modification of character through education, according to Kardec, becomes even more important for parents now. Forget about school. Now you have the influencers on YouTube or TikTok that is telling kids what to do and what not to do.
Still the parents' responsibility to do damage control. There's no other way.
Much greater now.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we're going to stop here. We have 1 minute left. So this Saturday, the lecture that we have this Saturday by the United States Spiritist Federation is by the president of the Spiritist Federation of São Paulo, Roberto Watanabe, and he's going to talk about free will. We talked a lot about free will today. He's going to talk even more on Saturday, so 11 a.m. through the United States Spiritist Federation YouTube, Facebook, and the International Spiritist Council YouTube. Okay. On Sunday, this is the 4th Sunday of the month. This Sunday, we're going to have our Q&A session online. So bring your questions. We are going to be open to have any discussions related to Spiritism. Okay, so this Sunday, 11 a.m. Online only. Okay. Elmo, you do our final prayer.